Hey guys, welcome back to Real Men of Real Estate. We are talking about how COVID is rearranging the entire real estate market overall over the last couple of years. And where we stopped before the commercial break, we were talking with Luis about interest rates and the changes of quantitative easing. So Luis, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, bud, but go where you started before about interest rate changes and how that might soften some of the market.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, or the simplest way to understand interest rates and pricing, right, it's like a teeter-totter. The rates go down, the purchasing power goes up. And when the rates go up, the purchasing power goes down. And that affects the market directly because that affects the people that can actually afford a certain payment per month. So I think when the rates went up last week on Thursday, I think, but as soon as they start creeping up into the 4s, the 5s, which is still a great rate, right?
So wait, how far did they go? How far did they go up last week?
I think last week they went to 3.125, so 3 and 8.
So not to make this point so early, but I think this plays back to you, Luis, is that the rates went up a little bit, and as I said, they were going down for a long time, and then the rates went up a little bit. And the first question is, why aren't things selling? Well, it's because it changed the psychology of the buyer coming in. So when it changed their psychology even a little bit, it changed the amount of traffic going through the other side. We saw properties sitting that should not have been sitting, and we don't overprice stuff. They're very well put together properties, but they didn't move, and it was weird. Why didn't they move? And so you could attach this back to those things. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's all good, and you're gonna see that, right? Like, I've been buying real estate for a long time, probably 19 years or so. But I remember buying a property, or I bought two within 2 years. And it was in 2003. I bought a property, and my rate was like 6%, and I was like so excited. And it was 6%, and then after that, I got another one for like 5.75, and now
you figured over 3%, you're pissed.
Oh yeah, I know, seriously, right? It's just like, man, like I did a cash refi on one of my properties. Even the one that I live in is 2.5%. My residence where I live is 2.5. One of my rentals in La Quinta is 2.5%. And it's like, oh, can I? And then I just got pre-approved again to buy, and he's like, oh, the rate's at 3%. I'm like, why 3%? I have the other.
Well, wait, I understand what happened to 1%.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, like, why am I overpaying?
And so there's actually a lot of people who are predicting that we're going to go to negative interest rates. There's probably a whole nother show on that, but I think we're going to go below zero. That
would be really, really bad. I
agree.
I think, The biggest issue I see, and it doesn't take a rocket science, it's very simple and it's common sense. I think when you have the boots on the ground and you see activity of the market and you're in it, you're able to see how policy affects everything directly.
Yeah, you can read the terrain.
Yes, exactly, right? And it's just the people that are making these policies are so disconnected with what actually is happening on the ground and how one decision they make is really affecting and screwing the people that are not making a lot of money, I would say.
Yeah.
And it just they don't even ask. The big thing is they don't even ask.
And I think and I do want to say this because it's not. Then this is in no way meant to be a political statement. But when you're trying to fix the one major problem for everybody, you end up hurting the problem previous you just fixed because you changed the other side of the teeter-totter. So like you had mentioned, yes, it's great to have interest rates go low, but then prices go astronomically high. It's great to have, schools follow a certain thing for a lot of people. Well, then you're also excising a lot of people too. So there's a lot of back and forth that they don't realize. And to me, I think the biggest thing is all of these simple changes are the problem. Not COVID specifically. It's all the response mechanisms to fixing that problem are now offsetting everything else. And so it's causing a lot of these divots in the marketplace. And that's why people are so confused as to what's coming next.
And so that to piggyback off of that. So honestly, when people ask me how the market is, it's very hard to give them an exact answer. And I'm just brutal honest. Usually the statistics say exactly what Luis said about whenever rates rise, the values go down, but in this market, we're such in an unprecedented time of where policies and procedures are coming down. We don't know how necessarily that's going to affect, because people aren't necessarily moving, and not to make it about politics, but people aren't necessarily moving out because they're getting a cheaper place over in the South.
Yeah. And so actually this is something so this is how I answer that question. And I think it might help a little bit, but this is kind of how I think about it, is that the best advice for if you should do something now is not so much tied to real estate. It's tied to, well, where are you? Like if are you,
exactly.
My younger brother came to me a while ago and he was looking about buying something, but he was in the middle of, he just got engaged. Or maybe they were married. I can't remember. He had a kid on the way and he was changing jobs. And I said, you have 3 of the most stressful things people go through and you want to add the 4th. I think you might want to just do those first and then we'll get you settled. Stuff like that. So I heard some really great statistics the other day and I actually never thought about it, which was surprising, is that buying something today is only really important if you're not going to be there at least 10 years. Because even at the market's worst, it recovered in 10. Historically, apparently, it's always recovered in 10 or less. So I say the historical, I'd have to look to see certain of that, but that's sounded accurate. And so if you were to buy something today and the market popped tomorrow, then you just got to be comfortable there for a period of time. Worst thing people do is they sell stuff when they've lost money on it. When you've lost money in your 401k, the instinct is to get the rest out, things like that. When they say you just let it, don't worry about it, the money, stay there, it'll recover on its own. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is that one of the things that we've gotten very used to is a flipping mentality pretty much on everything. Flipping itself is being a big topic, but more specifically, it's when someone buys their starter home, they're really only in that house for maybe 2 years. Maybe they're long enough to escape the capital gains, and then they're on. Yeah. And they do it again. So they'll have 5 homes in the next 10, 15 years to get to this, the dream home where, my grandparents still have their house. They built it on a credit card. They built it on $7,000 credit card, 600 years ago.
My grandmother's place, the same thing. Yeah. She bought it.
But they don't move.
Yeah.
That thing gets paid off in, 10, 20 years. And these days we wonder, why is there a thing called a 30-year mortgage? I'm out of here in 5 years. And so, but the point is that's become psychologically, that's where we've all gotten comfortable. We've gotten comfortable with this idea of starter place. And I've got clients, I'll work with them 5 and 6 times over the next 4 years. And they're like, oh yeah, I sold that one. Let's go get that one. And it's just, you can, but you can't do that if the market isn't moving. And so that's going to have an effect on how people make the decision and how long they're going to be intended to be one, which is why I don't want to keep bringing it back to schools, but that is such a big question to answer because you're going to be there a while. What you were saying about starting a school, I predicted that neighbors would start their own community schools, things like that, because why wouldn't they? All sports or club sports anyway. So it's going to change a lot of stuff, but that is an idea, is that because we've gotten so used to how it is, it's going to depress how we make the decision moving forward. It's going to shrink the amount of market to a degree. It's going to shrink the amount of licensed agents that are able to do that job. The average is, I think, 3 deals per year an agent actually sells.
We kind of need to slim that down a little bit anyway.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's
a whole different show.
Yeah, I don't love the massive amount of people in this business, but that's just because it's too diluted. You can't guarantee service, which is a big thing for me. Yeah. But the point is that if you get used to something, that's how you think it should go. You get used to 2% interest rates. When they go to 5, you're like, this is insane. Why would I ever pay 5? It was 2 a week ago. Well, the market changed. What's the market? What does that even mean? You know what I mean? So when it changes these things on the dominoing of from this house to this house to that house, and you can't do that anymore, will that change how those millennials are shopping? Will that change how people are moving? Will it change how fast the values can recover in areas like Florida? Because when Florida gets hit because got no more Californians moving there to care way higher about prices, and they lose market share, is anyone moving in the next 20 years? How crazy would that be?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They'd be stuck.
In Florida. Exactly. I mean, depending on where you're at in Florida, it might be okay.
Yeah. And actually, the other thing that I've been following very closely, because I do work with a lot of investors and have for the last 7 years, is I've been following the NOD notices. So I get a list of NOD notices for Riverside County, Orange County, San Diego County, and LA County every single week, and they keep increasing. So right now in Orange County alone, we have more than 1,500 NODs filed.
Yeah, interesting.
Plus Riverside, more in Riverside. The trend I'm seeing, which I've seen before when I first got into real estate, is that the blue-collar counties like Riverside, San Bernardino, those are going to struggle a little bit more than like high-density counties like Orange County, LA County. Even with regulation, it is a mess. it's just too
well,
bad,
because
right?
you just so like what you just said. So you have that as an event, and then you take a spider web and pull it out from all the things that are going to continue to affect that event. So a blue collar worker who's forced to also get vaccinated doesn't want to, and that law stays in place. Well, or he can't, or something happens. He loses his job, can't get a loan modification from the mortgage company, could possibly lose their house, and then also migrate and exit someplace else. Rents are up 20%.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. Rents are insane.
Right,
things have gone up 20% in the last 2 years on something that usually goes up 1 or 2% a year.
I just had a renter. We went to negotiate the deal. One of the renters paid 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
Up front.
So, but back to your point of the NODs is that you have people who are losing their houses potentially once the banks decide there's no reason to extend your loan anymore. If they do, we don't know how that's going to shape up. They may not. And then you have foreclosures, and then those people where there's not more jobs. And like you mentioned earlier, there's people who are sitting on the sidelines not getting jobs while they can get them. And that's going to change too. And then it's going to be somebody else's problems. There's so many dominoes coming after this that could be highly problematic if people don't settle down on how they make decisions about their living situation.
Yeah, and the big thing is with the NODs is it can kind of be skewed too, because you don't know which one of these people that are really playing the game to see what government, because what most people are doing is not playing. They're taking advantage of, just like you said earlier about the unemployment assistance. They're doing the same thing with their mortgage. They know that eventually the government's probably going to come along and save them in some sort of way. So they're like, why pay right now? We can get an NOD. They really can't get us out of here. We'll just wait till another government assistance comes on. We'll sign up for that, and then we're saved.
I will say there's that. The courts are very backed up, so it's really hard to enforce. Regardless of what the rules are, it's hard to enforce them.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. People are definitely going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. What was that thing?
Or here's another thing. I mean, I have an example of a client who has a tenant that's been delinquent for 18 months, and a few people that are more than capable.
I'm laughing because I know about this guy that he's talking about. So, like, we know him very well together.
It didn't sound that funny to start.
It's a whole nother show just in that one specific thing, Luis.
Yeah, and then so there is that situation. I mean, we can do another show on that, but it's just,
Jerry Springer.
An example. Of somebody that's really taking advantage of the system, that someone that's more than capable of working and is taking advantage of the system, and including getting his utilities paid because he can get it from Newsom. But anyways, one of the cities that I think we should all follow just to see how this is going to play out is Santa Ana. What the mayor Sarmiento is doing there is incredibly dumb.
Do you say Santa Ana?
Yeah.
Oh, Santa. Okay, keep going.
So Sarmiento, the mayor, actually is enforcing 3% annual caps on rental properties. In Santa Ana, Santa Ana is one of the biggest cities for rental markets. So I was looking at a rental there recently to purchase. So the fact that he's putting caps on rent and it's putting other restrictions that you can't evict until next year possibly, that's going to be a cluster because a lot of people are in default now.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how that develops because I think that city is going to become government dependent. And one, he's providing other services. So where does the money come from? He's going to raise property taxes, sales taxes, any other tax they can do. Yeah. And it's just going to put the city back. And I would say he's going to bankrupt the city in less than 3 years. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's just like
something else that was kind of funny is that how I say this, whenever someone comes with something that's kind of like a good idea for making money in real estate, 20 people come behind it and figure out a way to like knock it off, like stop doing it. So like Airbnbs for the last 10 years have been like a really big thing. And somebody had the glorious idea of buying, I think he bought like 20 properties right next to Disneyland until everyone else figured out that was fun too. And they started buying all these condos next to Disneyland in Orange County, California. And then of course, all of the tourist dollars weren't going to the hotels and resorts. So, they pulled it and said, you can't do it at all. And any area that does that. So my point is that Santa Ana is kind of doing what Oakland and San Francisco with rent control might have done. And I was up in San Francisco, must have been at least 15 years ago. And at that time, the lady who owned the 3-unit building that we did an Airbnb from said it makes no sense to own long-term tenants in San Francisco because you cannot raise anything. If they're there, it's controlled forever. If they're in there at $1,100, they can be there till they die at $1,100. And there's no reason to get them out. So it becomes hard.
Yep. Actually, so here's another thing. I didn't say this on the show because I closed my
Luis,
office.
you're going to hate me, man. You're going to hate me right now.
That's it.
It's not that I don't like what you say. I have to cut somebody off, and it's always your time. So, hey, guys, we'll be back in 2 minutes. We'll let Luis come back in with the most recent bit of information we're talking about. See you soon.